She didn't just leave you, she hollowed you out. It was a systematic dismantling, conducted with the chilling precision of a demolition expert. First went the foundation, your confidence. Every small suggestion to change, every casual dismissal of your opinion, was a micro-fracture in your self-worth. Then came the support beams, your friends. He isolated you, subtly at first, framing your friendships as threats to your time together, until you willingly cut the ties to the very men who would have warned you this was coming. Finally, she went for the core structure, your purpose. Your ambitions were recast as selfish distractions, your personal goals an inconvenience to her comfort. You handed her the blueprints to your own psyche, and she used them to orchestrate a controlled demolition, leaving you standing in a pile of rubble that used to be your life. You thought you were building a temple for her. In reality, you were just digging your own grave, and she was the one who politely handed you the shovel. You operated under a fatal delusion, a silent contract you wrote and signed in your own mind. If I erase myself for her, she will love what remains. It's the grand lie of the modern man, the self-inflicted wound of the nice guy. You became a chameleon, changing your colors to match her every mood, her every whim. You abandoned the music you loved for the playlists she preferred. You traded your weekend hobbies for errands that served her schedule. You learned to silence your own instincts, to swallow your disagreements, to nod and smile when every fiber of your being screamed in protest. You became a ghost, haunting your own existence, a butler serving a queen in a kingdom of one. And what was your reward for this complete abdication of self? Contempt. She didn't see a devoted partner. She saw a servant. She didn't feel security. She felt boredom. The man she was initially attracted to, the one with his own thoughts, his own fire, his own life, had been methodically executed by your own hands. You presented her with the empty shell, and were shocked when she found it hollow and uninteresting. She didn't fall out of love with you. You gave her nothing left to love. Let's return to that final sterile conversation. It wasn't a dialogue. It was a sentencing. The air in the room was thick with the verdict she had reached weeks, maybe months before. Notice the clinical detachment in her eyes, the rehearsed cadence of her words. She delivered lines like, "You deserve someone who can appreciate you," a masterpiece of psychological warfare designed to sound like a compliment while functioning as a dismissal. You, in your panic, tried to logic your way out of an emotional execution. You presented evidence of your devotion, listed your sacrifices as if they were points in a legal argument. You offered to change even more, to sacrifice even deeper, to erase the last remaining vestiges of your own identity if it meant she would stay. You were negotiating the terms of your surrender with an enemy who had already won the war and was simply there to collect the spoils. As the great philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer noted, to desire immortality is to desire the eternal perpetuation of a great mistake. You were begging to perpetuate the very mistake that led you to this moment. Your weakness wasn't just a turn-off, it was an affirmation of her decision. In her mind, she wasn't leaving a man, she was escaping a void. The silence that followed her exit was a physical entity. It was the sound of your world cracking down the middle. In that void, you were confronted by the reflection of a stranger, a hollowed-out man who had traded his sovereignty for servitude. Every object in your home screamed her absence. Every memory was now tainted, a monument to your own foolishness. This is the bottom. This is the point of absolute zero. But it is here, in the freezing darkness, that the first spark of a new fire can be ignited. Because the pain you feel now is not just a wound, it is a catalyst. It is the universe's most brutal and effective teacher. The utter humiliation of being discarded is the fuel for the most profound transformation a man can undergo. A new architecture of the self must be built upon these ruins, one with a foundation of unbreakable purpose and walls of non-negotiable boundaries. An inevitable collision is on the horizon. The day will come when you cross paths with her again, not by chance, but by the design of a world that tests its warriors. In that moment, when her eyes meet yours, she will not see the ghost she left behind. She will see a king, secure in his own frame, radiating a power she can no longer access or influence. The real victory is not winning her back. It is in demonstrating, through your calm indifference, that your world no longer requires her as its center. If you are ready to stop being a pawn and start becoming the king on your own board, subscribe to Psychological Dominion now. Crush the like button to declare your allegiance to this new mission. In the comments below, tell us what city or country you're forging your new empire from, and share the one moment of powerlessness that you will now use as the fuel for your absolute transformation. Your war for self-sovereignty begins today. Let's dissect the architecture of your collapse. It wasn't a landslide. It was a slow, methodical erosion, a death by 1,000 concessions. You think her leaving was the event, the singular moment of failure? That is a comforting lie you tell yourself to avoid the devastating truth. Her departure was merely the formal announcement of a conclusion reached long ago. You were a king who willingly handed over his crown, his scepter, and the keys to his own castle, piece by piece, and then acted surprised when he was eventually exiled from his own kingdom. The diagnosis of your fall is not found in that final conversation. It is written in the invisible ink of 100 prior interactions, 100 silent surrenders you mistook for acts of love. The first phase of your downfall was emotional concession. It began subtly. It always does. It was a Friday night. Your friends, the men who formed the bedrock of your social life before she arrived, had a plan. A poker game, a trip to a sports bar, something that was yours. You mentioned it to her, casually, assuming your pre-existing life would simply continue to exist alongside her. And then came the first test. It wasn't an ultimatum. It was far more insidious. It was a sigh, a subtle shift in her mood. Oh, okay. I guess I'll just stay in and watch a movie by myself. Words are meaningless. The emotional payload is everything. It's a guilt-laced dart, designed to probe your defenses. In that moment, you faced a choice between your world and her emotional comfort. You chose her. You called your friends, made an excuse, not feeling well, have to work early, and you stayed. She tested. You yielded. You won. You thought you were being a compassionate partner. What you actually did was communicate a fatal piece of intelligence. Her leading emotional states are more important than your commitments, your friendships, your own sources of joy. You taught her that your masculine world was negotiable, that it could be dismantled with the right emotional leverage. Every time you canceled plans, changed an opinion to avoid a disagreement, or apologized for a feeling she didn't like, you were giving away territory. You weren't building a bridge to her. You were demolishing the road back to yourself. This led directly to the second phase, the loss of frame control. The frame is the unspoken context of your reality. It is your mission, your purpose, your non-negotiables. A man with a strong frame operates within his own reality and invites a woman to join him there. You did the opposite. You abandoned your reality and became a desperate immigrant in hers. Her problems became your emergencies. Her schedule dictated your day. Her anxieties became your responsibility to solve. Remember the argument about her coworker? You knew logically that she was overreacting. Your instinct was to offer a grounded male perspective, but you saw the storm clouds gathering in her eyes. You knew that disagreeing, even gently, would lead to conflict. So you folded. You validated her narrative, even though you knew it was distorted. You said, "You're right, he's a total jerk," when what you meant was, "You need to learn to handle workplace politics." In that moment, you didn't just lie. You surrendered your perception of reality to appease hers. You taught her that you were willing to see the world through her emotional lens, rather than your own rational one. When you apologized for things that were not your fault simply to restore the peace, you signed your surrender. You weren't just ending an argument, you were abdicating your authority as a man grounded in truth. The man she was initially attracted to, the one with his own solid perspective, was now gone, replaced by an agreeable echo, a mirror that only reflected her own image back at her. This is profoundly boring to a woman. She doesn't want a mirror. She wants a mountain. It became a puddle. From this loss of frame, the third stage metastasized, the addiction to validation. Having outsourced your reality to her, you soon began to outsource your self-worth. Her approval became the currency you desperately sought. You would dress not for yourself, but for a compliment from her. You would propose an idea for a weekend trip, not because you wanted to go, but because you hoped she would praise you for planning it. Her smile was your success. Her frown was your failure. This is a subtle but catastrophic shift. A man's validation should come from within, from the accomplishment of his mission, from the respect of other men, from the knowledge that he is living in accordance with his own values. You rerouted that entire internal wiring system to a single, external source, her. You became a performer, and she was the audience of one. You would tell a story about your day at work, and you wouldn't be sharing an experience. You would be scanning her face for micro-expressions of approval. Did she laugh at the right time? Did she seem impressed? Her indifference felt like a physical blow. This dependency is the antithesis of masculine energy. It reeks of neediness. It communicates that without her validation, you are nothing. And if you are nothing without her, then you offer her nothing of value. You are not a partner adding to her life. You are a parasite draining her of emotional energy, constantly requiring her to prop up your fragile ego. This inevitably descends into the fourth circle of relational hell, affective dependency. Your emotional state was no longer your own. It became a direct reflection of hers. If she woke up in a bad mood, your entire day was a frantic, nerve-wracking mission to fix it. You would walk on eggshells, trying to decipher the cause, offering solutions, becoming a court jester trying to coax a smile from an unimpressed queen. Her happiness became your responsibility, a burden no man is meant to carry. A man's emotional state should be an anchor, a point of stability in the chaotic sea of feminine emotion. Yours was a dinghy, tossed about by every wave she created. When she was happy, you felt a temporary sense of relief. The feeling of a prisoner granted a momentary reprieve. When she was upset, you were plunged into a state of anxious dread. This is not love, it is addiction. You were addicted to the chemical hit of her approval and terrified of the withdrawal of her displeasure. You sacrificed your own peace, your own centeredness, your own emotional sovereignty on the altar of her moods. She didn't feel protected by this. She felt smothered. She felt the immense pressure of being the sole regulator of your emotional well-being, and she grew to resent you for it. She wanted a lighthouse, and you gave her a terrified sailor clinging to her ship. The final, fatal phase was the breaking of the silence. But it was not your silence that mattered. It was hers. Her silence is dominance, not disinterest. When a woman withdraws, when she gives you the silent treatment, she is deploying one of the most powerful weapons in the female arsenal. It is a test of your emotional fortitude. It is a psychological siege. The silence is designed to create a vacuum in your mind, which your anxiety will rush to fill. What did I do wrong? Is she thinking of leaving me? How do I fix this? Your panicked response to this silence was your final, unconditional surrender. You would chase her. You would text her repeatedly. "Are you okay? Can we talk? Please, just tell me what's wrong." Every unanswered message was another nail in your coffin. You were begging. You were pleading for her to restore your emotional equilibrium. You proved, beyond any doubt, that she had absolute control over your inner state. The correct response to her silence is a calm, unwavering silence of your own, a clear communication that your world does not stop turning just because she is in a bad mood. You must become the mountain that weathers the storm, not the tree that is uprooted by it. Instead, you ran into the storm, arms outstretched, begging it to consume you. She tested you, and you failed. In that desperate chase to break her silence, you revealed yourself to be completely and utterly at her mercy. And no woman respects, or stays with, a man who is at her mercy. You can hear the objections forming in your mind, the rationalizations your ego is constructing to protect you from this harsh diagnosis. But I was just being a good, caring boyfriend, you might say. Let me be clear. There is a vast, unbridgeable chasm between being a caring partner and being a submissive servant. A king can care for his queen, but he does not take orders from her. He listens to her counsel, he values her perspective, but his decisions are his own, guided by his own principles and purpose. You weren't caring, you were capitulating. You weren't compromising, you were conceding. Healthy compromise is a negotiation between two sovereign powers. What you engaged in was a consistent, unilateral surrender of your own sovereignty. But isn't compromise the key to a successful relationship? This is the mantra of the modern neutered man. Yes, compromise on trivial matters is necessary. Where to eat dinner, which movie to watch. But you did not compromise on the trivial. You compromised on the essential. You compromised on your friendships. You compromised on your ambitions. You compromised on your core identity. You cannot compromise on the foundations of your own kingdom. You do not negotiate the terms of your own existence. The moment your fundamental principles become bargaining chips, you have already lost the war for your own soul. Perhaps the most insidious objection is this. Said she wanted a sensitive man who was in touch with his emotions. You, in your naivete, took her at her word. You failed to understand the dual speak of female communication. When a woman says she wants a sensitive man, she does not mean she wants a man whose emotional state is a fragile leaf in the wind. She means she wants a man who is intelligent enough to perceive and understand her emotions without becoming enslaved by them. She wants a man who can witness her emotional storm from the shore, not a man who drowns in it with her. You gave her emotional reactivity and called it sensitivity. You gave her emotional dependence and called it love. You fundamentally misunderstood the request, and your misinterpretation was fatal. The tragedy is that your fall was not spectacular. It did not happen in a blaze of glory or a dramatic confrontation. It happened in the quiet moments. It happened in the slight hesitation before you stated your own opinion. It happened in the quick, automatic yes to a request you knew you should have refused. It happened in the small, daily acts of self-abandonment that you thought were accumulating brownie points, but were actually digging your own grave. No one is coming to save you. That realization must hit you with the force of a physical impact. The world does not reward the nice guy. It rewards the strong man. It respects the man whose life is a testament to his own purpose, not a monument to a woman's whims. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to reclaiming your power. If you are ready to rebuild your internal kingdom and never surrender your throne again, subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications. We are your new strategists. Now I want you to answer this in the comments. What was the one small concession you made that, in hindsight, was the first crack in your foundation? Was it a canceled poker night? An apology you didn't mean? Be brutally honest. Your public admission of that single failure is the cornerstone of your new empire. And while you're there, crush the like button as a declaration that you will never make that mistake again. Your self-betrayal ends today. This diagnosis is not an autopsy. It is a battle plan. The pain of this truth is the only antidote to the poison of your past weakness. The reconstruction begins now. There is no going back for the weak man. There is only the construction of the new. Let that sentence burn itself into your consciousness, because what you are about to receive is not a comforting list of self-help platitudes. It is a set of battlefield commands for the reconstruction of your very soul. The man who was discarded is dead. We are not here to mourn him. We are here to salvage the raw materials from his ruin and forge a king. This process is not emotional. It is tactical. It is cold. It is an act of supreme, rational will. Your feelings are irrelevant. Your pain is merely fuel. Your hope is a liability. All that matters is the plan. The first command is to cut the excess. Effective immediately, you will reinstall absolute scarcity. This means you disappear from her life completely and without warning. No final text. No dramatic email explaining your newfound philosophy. No sad, lingering posts on social media. Vanish. You become a ghost. You sever every line of communication. Block her number. Unfriend and block her on all social platforms. Archive every photo. Erase every digital trace of her existence from your daily life. This is not an act of anger. It is an act of strategic amputation. You are cutting off a gangrenous limb before the infection spreads to your heart. You must understand the psychological violence of this act. In a world of constant connection, your sudden and total absence is a deafening roar. She expects you to chase, to plead, to linger. She expects the validation of your continued suffering. Your silence denies her this. It creates a vacuum, a void where your predictable, needy energy used to be. And the human mind, especially a mind that has grown accustomed to your attention, abhors a vacuum. She will be forced to wonder, to question, to fill that void with her own thoughts. For the first time since she met you, you are no longer a predictable variable. You have become an unknown. You have become a question mark. Be an absence that carries weight, presence that begs. The second command, install silence. At some point, she will likely reach out. It is almost inevitable. It will not be a grand apology. It will be a small, insignificant probe, a feeler text. Hey, saw this and thought of you. Or, how are you doing? These are not genuine inquiries into your well-being. They are shit tests, designed to gauge her level of control over your emotional state. She is taking your temperature. She is checking if the puppet still dances when she pulls the strings. Your response to this test will define the new dynamic. And your response is nothing. You do not reply. You read the message, you see it for the tactical probe that it is, and you put your phone down. You impose silence. Each hour that passes without your reply is a transfer of power. Her certainty begins to erode, replaced by a flicker of anxiety. Why isn't he responding? He always responds. Your silence communicates a devastating truth. Her access to you is no longer guaranteed. It is a privilege, and it has been revoked. You are no longer waiting by the phone for a scrap of her attention. Your world does not revolve around her anymore. You have a new mission, and her trivial messages are a distraction from it. To not respond is to dominate the frame. You are communicating that you are the one who decides when or if conversation takes place. Don't reconquer. Replace with a sharper silence. This brings us to the third command. Control the interaction. In the rare event that an interaction is unavoidable, a chance encounter, a logistical necessity, your conduct must be governed by a new protocol: minimal and unpredictable engagement. If you see her in public, you offer a calm, brief nod, and you keep walking. You do not stop to chat. You do not ask how she is. Your body language is relaxed. Your focus is forward, on your destination. You are a man with a purpose, and she is merely a passerby. A text response is absolutely required for some logistical reason. Your reply is brief, devoid of emotion, and serves only to transmit information. Yes, no. Confirmed. You use punctuation, not emojis. You are a diplomat from a foreign nation, not her emotional support animal. The unpredictability is key. She must never be able to predict your response. Sometimes you might reply with a single word after a few hours. Other times, you will not reply at all. This strategic inconsistency keeps her perpetually off balance. She cannot build a model of your new behavior in her mind, which forces her to think about you more. The man who wants to be loved will be discarded. The man who imposes presence will be feared, and what is feared is always respected. These external tactics are useless, however, without the fourth and most crucial command. Focus everything on hierarchy. All of the energy you once poured into her, the worry, the anxiety, the desperate attempts to please, must now be ruthlessly redirected into the 4 pillars of masculine power. First, the physical. You will go to war with your own body. You will lift weights until your muscles scream. You will run until your lungs burn. You will sculpt your physique with the discipline of a master artist. The mirror will become your feedback mechanism, not her eyes. Second, the financial. You will attack your career or business with a singular predatory focus. You will work longer, smarter, and harder than anyone around you. Your bank account will become a scoreboard that measures your discipline and your ambition. Money is not just currency. It is freedom. It is options. It is social. You will rebuild your network of strong masculine allies. You will reconnect with the friends you abandoned. You will seek out men who are better than you and learn from them. Your social value is not determined by one woman. It is determined by the respect you command from other men. Fourth, the symbolic. You will cultivate a deep sense of purpose that has nothing to do with a relationship. Learn a skill, master an art, build something. This is your mission, your reason for being. As the great philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer observed, a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. If he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free. In this period of tactical solitude, you are not just becoming free from her. You are becoming free to become yourself. A man defined by his mission is the most attractive force in the universe. This is not a hope. This is a plan. It is the architectural blueprint for your resurrection. You are not trying to get her back. The very thought is a poison that will corrupt your entire enterprise. You are building a new man, a new reality, a new kingdom so powerful and compelling that she will look back at the man she left and not even recognize. You will see a king on a throne she can no longer approach, and she will be forced to confront the magnitude of her miscalculation. The victory is not in her return, but in your own calm, unshakable indifference to it. If you are ready to stop being a ghost and start being a king, subscribe to Psychological Dominion, crush the like button, and activate all notifications to ensure you receive every command in this war. Now, answer this in the comments below. What is the one single area of your life, your physique, your finances, or your focus, that you will now declare total war on to forge your new self? Your answer is a public contract. Your transformation begins now. The collision was never a matter of if, but when. The universe, in its infinite and often cruel wisdom, enjoys testing its creations. It places the final exam not in a quiet room, but on the battlefield of your past. It happened on a Tuesday, a day of profound mediocrity, which only amplified the significance of the moment. You were leaving the gym, the iron-cold discipline of your new life still coursing through your veins, when you saw her. She was across the street, fumbling with her keys. For a fraction of a second, the ghost of the old you flickered, that Pavlovian impulse to cross the street, to help, to solve her problem. But the ghost was just that, a powerless echo in a fortified castle. You stood your ground. Your world did not tilt. Your heart rate did not change. You simply observed. And then she saw you. Her eyes widened, a complex cocktail of surprise, perhaps a hint of nostalgia, and the arrogant expectation of a queen who still believes she holds sway over a former territory. She expected to see the wreckage. She was looking for the haunted eyes, the slumped shoulders, the faint, desperate hope for reconciliation that she had seen in so many other discarded men. She was prepared for a performance of awkwardness, of lingering pain, a confirmation that her departure had left an indelible crater in your existence. It was the last hit of validation she sought, the final proof of her power. What she saw instead was a stranger inhabiting a familiar form. She saw a man whose posture was an architectural statement of self-possession. She saw shoulders broadened not just by weights, but by the carrying of his own purpose. She saw eyes that were not looking at her, but through her, their focus on a horizon she was no longer a part of. You did not offer a pained smile or a hesitant wave. You gave a simple, almost imperceptible nod, the kind of polite, impersonal acknowledgement one gives to a distant acquaintance. And then, you turned and continued on your path. You did not look back. In that single silent transaction, the entire history of your dynamic was rewritten. Your indifference was not a strategy, it was a fact. It was not a mask you were wearing to hide your pain, the calm face of a man who no longer felt any. Pain had been alchemized into fuel, and the fuel had been burned to build an empire. She was a footnote in a book you were no longer reading. The silence you imposed was not the weapon of a scorned lover. It was the profound quiet of a king in his throne room, for whom the squabbles of a distant village are no longer a concern. She stood there, keys in hand, watching you walk away. And for the first time, she felt the chilling impact of her own irrelevance. She had not broken you. She had unleashed you. The puppet had not just cut its own strings, it had burned down the entire theater. This is the final lesson. This is the culmination of your war. The ultimate victory is not her regret. Her feelings are and always were irrelevant. The ultimate victory is your own liberation from the need for any outcome involving her. You did not flip the chessboard to scatter the pieces in a rage. You simply stood up and walked away from the table, realizing it was a game you were never meant to play. Her rules, her emotional manipulations, her validation, They are all elements of a contest you have now transcended. Let her play with the pieces. Your focus is on building kingdoms. Respect is not requested, it is commanded. It is not earned through servitude. It is the natural consequence of power. And power is nothing more than the absolute, non-negotiable ownership of your own soul. You must become a man whose purpose is so profound that the presence or absence of any single person is a trivial variable in the equation of your life. Your internal state must be a fortress, immune to the emotional weather patterns of others. Your validation must come from the mirror, from the bank account, from the sweat on the gym floor, from the respect in the eyes of other strong men. You must understand that what you have been through was not a tragedy. It was a crucible. It was a controlled burn designed to clear out the dead wood of your own weakness, to make way for new growth. The hollowed-out man she left behind had to die so that the king could be born from his ashes. This journey was never about her. It was always about you. She was merely the catalyst, the unwitting instrument of your own becoming. Her greatest mistake was not in leaving you, but in underestimating the man you could become in her absence. So let this be your final word on the matter, the closing entry in a dead ledger. There is no revenge. There is no reconciliation. There is only the forward march of your own destiny. You are the architect, the builder, the sovereign of your own reality. The ghost of your past may occasionally appear on a street corner, a reminder of a war you have already won. Acknowledge it with a nod, and keep walking. Your empire awaits. The day she doubts who you have become, it will already be too late. If you are ready to walk away from the game and begin building your own kingdom, then your allegiance belongs here. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion, for this is your new command center. Smash the like button as a final salute to the weak man you are leaving behind. Next phase of your strategic development is not. Now answer this in the comments and be decisive. What is the name of the empire you are building for yourself, and what is its one unbreakable law? Your answer is the first decree of your new reign.